He came to meet up with the child in the hotel. The child was an 8-year-old girl. He's sitting on the bed across from her, and she's like, "Well, you're old and I'm young. Isn't this bad?" He said, "Oh no, sweetheart. I identify as 8."
You're tuned in to Kaz TV.
All right. Are we good? Let's do a test.
We are good.
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Awesome. So,
Good.
you were saying that that they needed to hear a parent's perspective, or that it would be good to bring a parent's perspective to the conversation. I think the topic was about schooling, right? Like schools and students. Yep. And so, do you feel like a lot of parents don't know what's really going on in schools today? And if so, what is that? And kind of touch on that.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of parents assume school is what it was when we were there, and they have no idea how politicized it's gotten. So yeah, I think, I mean, in all honesty, I was pretty much the only person there bringing the parents' perspective. Everybody else was an educator. So they obviously going to have a perspective in favor of their career. And it's not really going to speak on behalf of us, who we don't have a dog in the fight, but what's best for our children. So, you know, it's just a lot going on. They're obviously sexualizing kids. We're finding books in these schools every day. They have no business in the child's hands. Drag story times. You have the BLM stuff. You know, all of this stuff that just has nothing to do with science, history, and math. You know, and a lot of parents are just fed up and like, hey, just teach my kids the subjects and send them home, and we got the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not being forward about what it is that they're teaching. They're giving parents a hard time with giving them the curriculum and the sex education curriculum. I'm hearing stories where parents want to understand what it is that their children are learning in these sex ed classes, but the principal and everyone is giving them the runaround in order to get the curriculum to see for themselves.
What do you mean? Like, so
like
the parent is basically saying, hey, my son said you're teaching this topic. What are you guys talking about here? And the principals and people just aren't saying anything?
They're saying you need to go through so-and-so and giving people the runaround, like sending them through people. You need to write a letter. Instead of people are going to the school saying, I would like to see this, and they're giving them the runaround, making them go to the school board and things of that nature, when you can just show us the curriculum that should be in your classroom right now.
Huh. So how did you guys come across this? Do you guys have any kids in school right now that or family members that shared stories with you, like, hey, my son saw this in the library, or anything like that? Yeah, that's a good.
And also, what grade? What grade level?
Well, I know when we lived in the city of Philadelphia, my 2 oldest children were in the inner city schools. And I know my first grader, when she was in first grade, I found out that she learned about sex and excuse me. I found out that their bathrooms were co-op, like boys can go into their bathrooms. And I remember asking the teacher about it during one of the morning meeting or teacher parent meetings or whatever. And she said, if you have an issue with that, your daughter can request to go to the single bathroom or the teacher's bathroom. But she also said, thankfully, we don't see boys going into the girls' bathroom here at this school. But that was my first taste of it, of seeing that personally. But after COVID, they didn't go back to school anyways, so we haven't witnessed anything like that personally.
So the school said that they have a rule that boys can go in there if they want, but no one's done it yet. But it's our rule.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's weird.
Yep. And the teacher even seemed like she was uncomfortable with it as well when I was talking to her, but she was like, their hands are tied. They have to allow this.
So, was this like, hey, boys can just go in there? Was it like transgender boys or something like that? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't just
thing,
if you're
but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Mhm.
So what do you think is causing this kind of thing? Like, did you guys ever ask, like, who's the one calling the shots here? Who's making these decisions? Because I don't think most parents, and even myself as a parent, like I'm still learning how these schools and stuff operate because I never had a reason to think about it before. I used to think, oh, the principal makes the rules, but then I realized, oh, there's the superintendent, and there's the board, and there's these people. So who are the people from your research that you found, if you've done it or anything, like, that are making these decisions?
Do you want to answer that, babe?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the school boards, and it's unfortunate because the parents are supposed to have a say. A lot of parents don't show up to the PTA meetings. They don't really put up a fight. But I think another maybe issue is, like we talked about earlier, if you don't know, what are you going to fight against?
Right.
But then we're also seeing in a lot of states where parents are showing up to fight against it, and their voices are being marginalized, and they don't really care what we think. And, you know, you have some who are of the opinion that we should let educators to decide fully, because who are we? We weren't the ones trained to teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just like, we can complain all we want, or we can take the control back in our hands. I'm a solutionist, you know. I can't make y'all do what I want to happen, but I could take my kids out of there and decide what's going to happen.
Right.
Right. So you guys seem to be pretty concerned, like involved parents. Would you say that for other parents, it's more of a, they don't really know what's going on?
I think it's both, if we all the way real. Because a lot of people I talk to, they'll hear about the things going, and it's not a big deal to them. You know, they've just accepted the progression of the world, even if the progression is not what's best for us. So I don't know, man. I don't know why you would not care. But I think for a lot of people too, it's just school is their daycare, and they're not willing to give that up and have to make the sacrifices necessary to homeschool. A lot of people want to be able to say, I can't do it, I can't afford it, all of these different excuses, when we find a way to do the things that are important to us.
Right.
We're not a wealthy family by no means. We're your everyday average Americans, and we made it work because it was something that was of dire need in our opinion, and we're just not willing to sacrifice our kids in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of parents are turning a blind eye to it and acting like it's not real, because mainstream media are calling us conspiracy theorists for, you know, exposing what they're teaching our kids. No, that's not what we're doing when we have videos, you know, spreading around social media. But mainstream media is saying that it's a lie, and they're willing to believe that for it to be comfortable.
Yeah, if you go on Vice's channel right after they dropped our debate, I don't know if it was just to combat me, but I would say the next 2 videos over, they dropped a video, a whole special, saying that, discussing right-wing groomer conspiracy theories. So pretty much trying to make it sound like everything we're talking about is a wild right-wing conspiracy.
But one of those guys on the panel I saw, he was like, seemed like he was one of those guys. Now, I'm not saying, I'll say this. I'm not gonna say like that guy's trying to hook up with kids. You know, I'm not gonna go that far to label him as that, because I don't know. He probably just wants to be a teacher. But there's no way he can teach kids without them saying, "Wait, why do you have makeup? Why are you dressed like a girl? Why do you have lipstick on?" There's
Exactly.
no way. It's unavoidable.
It's foolish to even try to present that idea, and that's what he was doing. He's saying that I don't indoctrinate kids, I don't teach them anything but the subjects. But what they edited out is one thing he said during the conversation is, I wear the makeup for representation. Sir, then that's indoctrinating.
Imagine if someone wore like a Klan mask, and they said, "Well, I'm not indoctrinating. I'm just wearing it to let you guys know that there are Klan people out there."
Exactly. That's a good one.
I would have a problem with that.
Yeah, that's a great one.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's normalizing it, man. By coming in with the makeup, seeing a man with makeup on, it's like
Exactly.
normalizing it to
Exactly.
the children.
And they know the kids are, and they know the
Just
kids.
do rock, paper, scissors.
Right. And they know the kids are gonna ask questions. They're gonna ask questions. That's what they're hoping would happen.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
Now you got to teach acceptance, because if it was my kids, they would be in there laughing and pointing at the teacher, and it'd be a problem.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I'm saying a lot of kids that I know, they
I mean, that's what
Yeah,
when they watched the Vice panel, they was like, "Why that man got makeup on? He wearing."
right.
So
Right.
right.
They don't understand. Like,
I'm just going to read
what's
some of
going
the
on?
comments real quick for the people commenting so you guys can get, know that we're reading what you guys are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Sunny in 77 said, my single mom friend has a son she had to pull out of the system. She works and grandma helps to homeschool. And I homeschool him one day a week for free to help her out. So there's ways.
That's tough.
Someone else said, why is makeup normalized in the first place?
It's a disguise.
Right.
Homeschooling is the only immediate way to protect your kids. God trusts parents with their own children. Someone said, it has begun. Jesus is coming soon. The signs are everywhere. Trying to change the public school is like washing a pig. The pig runs back in the mud and turns around and tramples you. So, yeah.
Hey, just a quick story real quick before we move on. You were saying about how the kids were allowed to go into the teacher's bathroom?
The students who had a problem with sharing, the students of parents who had a problem with them sharing a bathroom with biological boys were allowed to use the the teacher's bathroom.
Oh.
At least that's the option she gave me, because I guess she didn't want me to cause a commotion about it. So she was like, if she ever has to, she can use the teacher's bathroom, which is a single bathroom with a door and a lock.
Okay,
Yeah.
That would be,
okay.
Hey, I was going to say, that's
Okay,
probably even
cool.
worse. Like,
Yeah.
all adults.
Yeah, because a long time ago, I remember being a kid. I think I was in like 3rd grade or something like that. And I go into the bathroom. Back then, I didn't realize, what was going on. But I go into the bathroom. Teacher comes in, and he pulls down his pants to use a urinal, like all the way down. And I look like, I know that's not right, but I really don't know. Like, I mean, you're a lady, so you might not know, like, what I mean by this. But your husband should definitely know, like, you shouldn't have to pull your pants all the way down to use a urinal.
All the teeth was out.
And I thought that was so weird, but I didn't really know what was going on. And now that I look back on it, I'm like, this dude was perfect. Like,
Pervert.
So you're saying you're in the bathroom, then a teacher comes in and goes like, yep, just go into the bathroom, and pulls out all
the way down.
Everything.
Yeah, all the way down.
At his ankle.
Everything. His butt was out. Like it was a white guy. His bare white butt was out.
That's not funny because that's inappropriate.
It is, but it's crazy, man. It's like freaky stuff like that happens. Like,
Speaking of freaky stuff like that, I just did a video on Instagram showing a transgender man, woman, whatever you want to call him. He had a penis, and he was in the girls' bathroom in front of the mirror jacking off with a camera, watching himself as women walk by.
Freaks, man. Freaks.
Disgusting.
Freaks.
And they
Wait, so what did the people do? Did they not care what
they
said or
didn't.
whatever?
He hid it.
He hid it.
He kind of, like, they weren't paying attention to him. They walked by, didn't realize what he was doing.
Mirror was on the side of the bathroom, so it wasn't the sink mirrors.
Oh, okay.
It was like a private wall mirror, and he was over there doing it while they over there washing their hands with no idea.
Yeah. Someone said
Well, that's
someone said that's allowing them to live their fantasy. And I heard somebody say
yeah.
that, you know, if you want to dress up and stuff, me personally, I mean, if you have the right to do that. If you want to dress up, dress up. But I don't think the rest of the world should have to play your game of like what you're like getting off to. I don't know why everyone else has to join in. You know?
Yeah.
Because
What?
and I was talking to somebody about this today, and you know, when you put the like LGBTQ plus community, right? All those acronyms, most of them, or all of them, except for T, and I think maybe T does stand for something sexual, but they're all sexual things.
T is transsexual.
Right.
Yeah. Transgender, transsexual, and so it's kind of like that is a sexual thing. That's like they're getting turned on by it. You know, I would assume if it's in conjunction with everything else. I'm not trying to label anybody. I'm not saying I hate anybody, but I just don't know why we have to like participate.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, that was a point that came up in the Vice panel. One of the transsexuals said that gay people are part of history, and so we need gay history. We need Stonewall and stuff like this taught to the kids. And I'm like, where's the straight history? Like, this is a silly discussion. You know, the gay people who were part of American history are just people. Why can't we just say what the people did? Why does it have to be the gay person did this?
Right.
You know?
And I think
You can't take.
Go ahead.
You can't take away their labels. You can't take away their labels because that makes them special.
Identity.
This is what I think the issue is and you know, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to label people like as though, hey, anyone who has this identity or struggles with this, like they're the problem. I think the problem is the way that the society is saying that we have to deal with these things. Like people that have struggled with these feelings have been around for a long time. It's not like a new thing.
Right.
But the problem that I have with it is the fact that it is, instead of it being labeled as something that someone likes to do and an action that someone does, it's being labeled as like a physiological thing. Like, oh, I'm black, or I'm mixed, or I'm this, or I'm that. It's an action that you're doing.
You know how they're doing it. They're attaching it to the brain. There was a transsexual that invited me on their platform because they reacted to what I said on Vice. Yeah. And that was a heavy part of the argument, is that our brains were made this way. So you know, the idea was that as a child, he knew that he was really a girl in the wrong body, but their brain is what's right. And I'm just like, I'm understanding now how they're able to do that, because they tied the persona to the physical body part of the brain, and they don't understand they have a mind, a will, and conscience that exists in their being that's not flesh.
Right. Well, if that's the case, and this is where, like I said earlier, we've got a guy coming on next week called Ask Cliff, and it's a father-son duo. They talk about philosophical things from a Christian perspective. They don't really get into this like political type stuff, but they talk about like just philosophy and thought and things like that. And if you deny that that there is anything outside of the physiological, the physical matter and energy, then you deny free will. So at least I will say this: I will give that person
That's a good one.
That's
a good one.
That okay, he's saying, I just am like this because my brain is just matter and energy reacting to its environment, and so I have no choice. My choice is just an illusion, and my brain is just reacting to what is around me. And so, but if you do that, then you have to say, okay, if you have that train of thought, you cannot express moral superiority over someone else because their brain is just reacting to its environment.
Ooh. That's good.
Right.
So, you know,
That's good.
but the problem is when they actually take, like, for the example, the transgender thing, and they say, well, I'm a man in a woman's body, or vice versa. There was a well-renowned like brain surgeon that came out and said, well, there's actually no real difference in the physiology of a male and female brain. It's the same thing. Now, males and females tend to go different directions and different things, but there was no difference. She said, I can't see a difference. And I know that kind of destroys the transgender thing, but I'm on the side of science. Like, she wasn't conservative. She wasn't liberal, anything. She was just like, I know people don't like to hear that, but I don't notice a difference. And here's the crazy thing. If there's no difference between men and women, then how do you know that you really are a man in a woman's body, or vice versa? There's no difference. And if you're saying there is a difference, then that destroys a whole other side of argument that people tend to gravitate towards in that sphere, which is the, feminism. And men and women are the same. We can do the same things. The only difference is one can give birth, one can't.
Yeah.
And so when you can't have them both. You've either got to drop one or drop the other, but logically they can't both coexist.
Right.
Doesn't make sense.
I mean, to that point, I was like,
You good?
Oh, I think he's frozen.
He froze, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So it it's one of those. It's one of those.
Oh, his phone died.
Oh, it did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well,
He came and got the charger. He probably forgot to plug it in.
Okay, I'll remove them so that someone else can hop on if they want to hop on. If you guys want to hop on, feel free to hop on.
Yeah, you guys can join up again.
If you agree, disagree, whatever. So let's see some of these comments while we're waiting. You know what grinds my gears? Okay, I don't know. This looks like a burner account. I gotta pay rich people prices to keep my kids in outdoor school. It's just okay. Let's see. Just to change school curriculum is very hard. But this, I don't know. Everything about it feels wrong. Julie, when you say that, are you saying what seems wrong? The agenda that they're pushing, or trying to get rid of that agenda? Julius says they don't want to be tolerant of other people's beliefs and views, but they want other people to be tolerant of their views and beliefs. This violates the First Amendment. Someone said, we can't have religion in schools, but we rush sexual identity to kids and tolerate it.
Which is a religion.
Yeah. Everything is just opinions and no objective truth according to them. Also, if you're in the wrong body, why do trans people present as culturally subjective stereotypes of what a woman is? Definitely not a burner account. No, I didn't know. I didn't know, man. All I see is just the comment and stuff. I don't know. Kids are developing, exploring life. They push a sexual agenda. They're looking to establish a certain demographic so rich hierarchy find life exciting again. It's infuriating and are innocent. They're pushing, sorry. Okay. It's full of narcissism and hurt from the church. So, you guys live in, you said you're up north? Like northeast?
No,
not no more. We're in the Southwest now.
Oh, okay, nice. So, what is your take on like how the church is like responding to this? Do you see a reaction? Does it depend on?
I think it depends on the church.
Okay.
But on a large scale, I think it's kind of like the taboo thing that a lot of people staying away from as well.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of churches in America today are quiet about a lot of these issues, including abortion, the LGBTQ agenda. I don't think that's being talked about, preached about, or warned.
Especially the black church. The only thing we want to talk about is racism. We'll kill that topic. And that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I've had conversations with people. I've shared, when you share a video with somebody from the internet and it goes against what their view is, they're just going to say, well, you believe everything on the internet? Regardless to what side. It could be left or right.
Right.
But when you share a video about, like, hey, look, this school is literally pushing this curriculum. People, from my experience, especially like older generation, are like, that's not actually happening. That's not going on. No one would allow that. They're not
right. The denial.
that. That's not going to be. They're not going to get. That may be one random school, but they're not actually going to allow that. Have you guys heard that response? And if so, what is your
100%?
Because what really is happening is that they don't want to have to stand up and fight. They're cowards. And I believe that they rather act like it's not happening, even when there's videos being shown to you. Like, I've had a conversation with someone recently and gave them receipts of what's happening. And they was like, well, they still deflect it because they don't want to have to recognize what's happening. They don't want to have to do the sacrifices it will take to take their kids out of school, or, be someone that goes against the grain. No one wants to do that.
Or offend the LGBT people in their lives as well.
Yeah.
Or the backlash they could get from their career.
So you don't think
Cancel.
So you don't think there's any people that really just don't know? Because I will say there are a lot of people that I know.
Yeah, definitely.
They're not on social media, and from their generation, they watched the news, and the news was how they got information. And like, the news isn't talking about this. If this was really going on, the news would be all over it.
That's valid, especially with the old generation. That's a valid point. If it ain't on CNN, it ain't happening.
Right.
Yeah. And so I've had conversations with people, and I've tried to tell them, like, no, this is actually being taught. But it seems like there's kind of a ignorance of what's going on, and they kind of view the internet as like this mystical thing that they don't understand. So they say, that internet, people make stuff up all the time. Someone could have edited that. And then you clearly see it's not edited. It's just a video, but they don't understand. How do you get those people involved to change these things? Or do you think they're needed to change it?
Maybe I'm being a pessimist. I don't think they're needed, and I don't think they're going to care, because I think if you don't have children, you might not have invested enough interest. If you're old like that, you're more concerned about who's going to keep my Social Security on. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think there's a level of that we can't ignore, that people care about what's important to them. And, I think we all may agree that this should be important to everybody, because it's all of our job to protect the children. But if I'm honest, as a 21-year-old man, if you said that to me, I would have said, screw yourself. I don't care what you think I should care about.
Yeah.
I think you just can't help that reality that people care about what they care about.
Yeah. And then you can't forget that the generation, maybe the last 2 or 3 generations before us, I mean, this is how we got to this place in the first place. So they didn't stand up for the future kids or for their children's children. And we can't expect them to do that now.
Well, and just to play the devil's advocate for a little bit, I will say that sometimes I will see kind of the boy cries wolf sometimes, where back in like 1980s or 70s, there was a pastor like, get that devil box out of your house. you know, referring to like the TV, you know, and like, if you watch it, you're gonna go to hell, you know, and like, man, this guy's crazy. This isn't that bad. And there may have been a little bit of truth in what he was saying, right? And then you got people saying the same thing about like, you know, year 1999, you know, Jesus is coming back. And so it's kind of like now a wolf is really here, and we're saying, hey, there's a wolf. Now, obviously, it's different groups, different people, it's a different generation, and we're saying, hey, there's wolves here. And the older generation is like, you'll understand one day when you get our age, you'll see everyone's been saying that, and it's you know, it just goes back where it'll fix itself, and it kind of it seems like it's just getting worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that.
I don't know, bro. Like, did you say y'all were in the Northeast?
No, I'm in Alabama.
I'm in the South.
Even worse, because so you probably can relate to this. I can't give them the TV is the devil excuse, bro, because these same people that don't care, they had no problem watching Scandal. They was watching Power. They ain't missed one episode of them shows. Like, in my experience, I'm seeing those are the people that completely want to ignore this issue. So that's selective religion.
Okay.
And then in regards to the second point, I forgot your second point. I had a counter to it.
No, you're
but
good. It was kind of the boy who cries wolf, and then now there is a wolf.
Yes.
People don't believe it.
Yeah. I think that might be valid, because I do hear a lot of people say, I believe we're in the end times. Jesus is coming back soon anyway, and we know the devil is supposed to take over the world, so we shouldn't fight. Let's just wait to get whisked off to heaven and let Satan win, which is a horribly irresponsible view, in my opinion. But that is a prominent view that I hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when it comes to that, this may not be the most biblically accurate view. But I'd say that I can at least make an argument for it. Unless you're, just a predestination person, like frozen, chosen, everything is predetermined, then probably won't agree with me. But I think that there are some things that God gives us the free will to do, and it's going to happen. Like Revelation will play out. But I think part of it, too, he's given us to say, now it can be on your watch, or it could be on the next people's watch, or the next people's watch. And the way I look at it is, I'm like, if that's even an option, I would rather say it's not going to be on our watch.
Come on. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Like, it's going to happen. It will happen. But why does it have to be while we're in charge? Why does it have to be while we're the ones here? Like, every nation will fall eventually. But why does it have to be while our generation is here? Let's at least let it go on a couple more before then they drop the ball.
Yep. I'm with you there all the way. Our light is supposed to invade the darkness. We're not supposed to be the ones hiding.
Right.
We're supposed to be the city on the hill.
Right. There was a question that says, do you think that giving the LGBT topic taboo has allowed it to fester and dominate the world's culture? How can we complain when we sit back in the topic altogether? So it sounds like what he's saying is that why are we like do we think because it was a taboo topic for so long that no one really talked about or called out, we allowed it to kind of grow in the dark, and then now that it's here, we complain that it's here, but we never exposed it and really talked about it like we should have?
Mm-hmm.
That's valid.
Yeah, that's valid. I think what's happening now is they're pouring over into stepping on our rights and enforcing it on us. Before, we didn't say anything about it because we didn't care. You guys did your thing. We didn't have to force you to do, to be straight. It is what it is. That's what you decided for your life. No one cared about that. It's just now it's getting out of hand, where there's laws being changed, where safe spaces are no longer safe. They're jumping into women's sports, all these things, and we're being forced to not criticize them. If we criticize them, we likely to get fired from our jobs or canceled or whatever is gotten out of hand. We're being bullied.
No, we're right. I say all the time that gay is the new black, and this LGBT thing is the modern civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. And should it be? I mean, it's just crazy. When they already, honestly, are the most protected people out here. You can lose your whole career for criticizing them.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, man, this is going to segue into what I've been dealing with a lot lately. Especially like you said, gay is the new black, or LGBT is the new black, whatever, right? When you look at the black community, and you look at the voting patterns of the black community, and you look at the values of the black community, at least in the South, black Americans are more conservative than white Americans. They're pretty much more conservative when it comes to all the individual issues. When you mention, and I know like you probably have done this before, when you mention, hey guys, I know you're not for some of these things, you know, the party that's pushing these things is this party, right? Do you see like a willful ignorance? Like, no, they're not. The other side's bad. The other side's racist. They're not doing these things. They're not pushing the LGBTQ plus agenda. It's just happening, but they have nothing to do with it. They're helping me. Do you see that at all?
Honestly, I personally don't. What I actually see is quite the contrary. I see we know they're pushing it and we don't care because race is more important.
Yeah. That's what I see too. I was going to say that. I think it's more of, I don't care what they do, but this side says they support black people. So I'm going to vote
because
this side.
That other side is racist.
Even if it goes against all my biblical principles, this side says we're for black people. That's what we're going to go with.
I don't care about baby killing. I don't care about the LGBT agenda. I don't care what they're pushing in the schools. I care that the other side racist, and I want those who coddle my victimhood.
Right.
That's the most important voting issue for black people.
Yeah, you don't take away my excuse, my victimhood.
And the reason I say that, we're all probably around the same age. We remember growing up in the 90s, being gay was not a normal thing. The 90s weren't that long ago. If you were gay, it was typically kept private. If you were out and gay, you were one of few. That was not a common thing. You didn't go to the store and see the gay guy as the cashier every day. So it's hard for people to reconcile the reality that gay marriage was not even a reality of our lifetime. This is a post-Obama reality we're living in. And that was the people's champion. When we talk about black people, he lit the White House up in rainbow to celebrate gay marriage. And, you know, I don't think it's no secret that he did that in his second term for a reason. I think he knew that he had nothing to lose at that point. I think he intentionally didn't do that as a first term thing. But black people still, like you said, we're conservative. Every black person I'm talking about, they're not with the LGBT thing, but they'll still praise them regardless of the fact that he is the reason we're fighting all of this.
Yep.
But
prior to him, none of this was the norm.
So what do you say to someone that just responds back with, that's just what white people say because they don't like them?
How can you say that? These are facts. You can't say that when he literally is the person who legalized gay marriage. That's a literal fact.
Facts don't matter to these people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's the other part I think Zach was trying to get at. There's a certain population that they don't really even know that. They just voted for him because he was black. You know what I mean? Like, they don't even really know what he stands for.
But can they not know, though, that if they were alive prior to 2012, I say, somewhere around there when gay marriage was legalized, they know that that was not a norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You can
think
know
that
that.
the response I hear
Certainly,
most
for
is
sure.
like, yeah, he had to do it. He's not
Yeah.
down with that kind of stuff.
He don't got no control.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that too.
But then it's like,
His
well,
hands were tied.
if he doesn't have any control, why do you even vote for him in the first place?
Talk about it. Talk about it. And then if he don't got control, why do you blame Trump for everything that went wrong during his presidency? Oh, so some presidents got control, some don't.
Yeah. It's
They're convenient arguments, you know?
yeah. But to what Kat was saying, I've actually just yesterday or the day before yesterday, somebody left a comment saying that it's Republicans and Democrats that are pushing the gay agenda. And I'm like, what? Republicans were against the gay marriage. What are you even talking about? So I have seen them say that it's both parties that are doing this, not just Democrats.
I mean, because you don't get anything passed without some Republican votes. So
Yeah.
that's what they're trying to hang their hat on.
Oh, okay.
Now I will say this, when it comes to I think like the gay ship has sailed. Like that's already kind of accepted politically already.
Yeah.
Like not from a Christian perspective, because as believers we see things differently.
Right.
But from a political perspective, that ship sailed. Now the new ship coming in is transgenderism, and it's like, okay, this is how it was before. And then people are saying, oh, it's never gonna fly. And it's passing the port now. What are we gonna do? You know, we've seen it already in history, and you know the next one way down there is the generational relationship people that are like, oh, well, I'm 40, she's 10, who cares? I'm born that way. But people say, oh, that's that, because when this one was
that's
coming by,
already here.
when this one
That's
was
already here.
coming by, they were like, no one's gonna do that. No one's really gonna do that. And now this one's coming by. That's the next one.
They've eased
So when I was on that show for the transgender who wanted to talk to me, that came up when they used the excuse about their brain being female, though they're in a male body. Though they're in a male body. I said, do you give that same excuse to pedophiles? Because their brain is attracted to kids. So are we just to say whatever your brain wants to do is okay for you to do? Or do we at some point have to say you need therapy to deal with your brain if it's doing something that's not right?
Right.
Instead of trying to make the world normalize around your brain. But of course, when it comes to pedophiles, they always, oh, of course not. That's not the same. How?
Yeah.
How?
And it's clearly leading to that now.
Yeah.
Why are we targeting children to teach them about sexuality, different sexualities, how to have gay sex, all this stuff? Why is that even important?
They're teaching
Oh,
that?
you don't know. Oh man, they got the books in schools already.
Yep. Explaining. It's not real pictures, but they're still illustrated of what. Didn't you see a book where they were giving, oral?
Yeah, I don't know their Instagram, but you can follow No Left Turn for Education. They put out a lot of this information.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I saw. What do you mean? Apply that to everything. Rape, murder, stealing, etc.
Yeah. My brain wants to do a lot of things.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I've actually seen a sting operation done where it was one of those things where they set up an older guy, made him think he was talking to a child. Well, they made him think he was talking to a child. He came to meet up with the child in the hotel. The child was an 8-year-old girl. He's sitting on the bed across from her, and she's like, well, you're old and I'm young. Isn't this bad? He said, oh, no, sweetheart. I identify as 8. So it's okay.
Why can't he? By that logic, why can't he identify as 8? If that's the standard,
if that's the logic we're going to use,
why can't you? And I think this is the issue right here, right? And I was talking to somebody about this. A lot of people on the left, not everyone, But a lot of people tend to have this idea of an idealistic world, that people are generally good naturally, and the only reason they're bad is because of bad circumstances that happened to them. And if they had good circumstances, they wouldn't act that way. So if we give people more liberty to do certain things, they're not going to do anything wrong. No one has that ill-willed intent. And the problem with that is an idealistic way to look at the world, but that's a non-biblical way to look at the world. That's an unrealistic way to look at the world. And that's a naive way to look at the world. And most of the people tend to be very naive when it comes to these things. That there are evil people. There are people that want to do bad just because nothing bad happened to them. They just want to do evil. They just want to see the world burn. Yeah. And unfortunately, they don't see that. And so they don't see the need for, no one would, are you serious? You really think that somebody would dress up like a girl to go into the bathroom just because they're a pervert? No one would do that. Nobody would do that. And this is where I would challenge anybody. And I would say, if let's say you consider yourself above average morality. If you didn't have to answer to God for this, would you go steal? Would you just go down the store and go down the road and steal from a store? Most people say no. You say, why? Because I'd go to jail. Okay, what if you could be invisible for a whole day?
Come on.
Would you even be tempted to do that?
Come on.
Yes.
Yes, I'm gonna get her done, bro.
So
give me the iPad.
People that feel a little morally superior than average, then what do you think the average person is going to do? You saw that in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina came. What happened? The authorities dispersed, and then now wait, no one's keeping me from doing right and wrong except my own conscience? I don't care about anybody else. And so people assume that, oh, because I care and I empathize for people, everyone else will too. There was a very liberal, left-leaning couple that wanted to travel the world to show that there's really no evil in the world, that everybody's just afraid of everyone else, and really people are good. They made it to the Middle East and got killed.
That ain't funny, but man, I got to take a moment on that one. The irony, boy.
And it's like, this is the thing about the West has gotten so civilized that there is an idea that danger and evil is just a myth. It doesn't really exist. The most evil thing a lot of these people express about is, this guy looked at me weird because I was wearing high heels. Or this person, asked me what ethnicity I am because they can't really tell. Or they gave me a weird look. That's the most evil a lot of us come across. Or, and this is a topic we were talking about last week. My dad spanked me as a kid. That's the most evil some people come across.
Yeah.
And so when you were in a civilized society, I believe that when it gets to a certain point, people just forget why certain things were put in place. And when they forget why certain things are put in place, they look at fences as barriers rather than protection. And so they say, let's knock down the fences, and they don't know why the fence was built in the first place. And so when you look back at like the Old Testament, and you see God is constantly telling people, put this rock here so you remember why I came up with this rule so that you can go into the promised land, that you remember that I brought you out. Put this here so you remember this. Put this here so you remember that. We will naturally forget as people why certain things happen, why we did things a certain way, and we forget the consequences. And so when they say history will repeat itself, unless you learn from it, it will.
Yeah. All you got to do is open the Bible. I mean, the whole Old Testament is full of examples. When life wasn't civilized, they was wild, bro. I remember the one story where the man was traveling with his lady, and they pull over into town for some rest, and a group of men come knocking on the door like, hey, bring your guest out so we can have sex with him.
Yeah. Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah.
They like, yo, that's just what they was like, hey, we about to get him. He here. That's the only thing he did. He's just here. So
Yeah.
you can't try to sell me that. And when I hear people sell those type of ideas, I don't trust you. If you're trying to make me feel like I overthink the realities of the dangers of life, that's weird to me.
Right.
Because I have that conversation with people, like, you know, people that, you know, you barely know. Somebody I meet on the internet be like, hey, man, yeah, when I'm in town, I'm going to hit you up for a place to stay. Like, no, bro, I get you a hotel. See, that's the stuff I'm talking. Bro, why would I have you stay in my house with my kids? I don't know your last name.
Right.
That's just
Right.
weird.
Right. I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah.
And it's
And these same people that speak this, they're locking their front door when they go to bed.
Right.
So it makes no sense. Why are you might as well leave your door wide open if you have this stance. So it's idiotic.
right. And so I think the idea that nothing bad will happen, naivety, and just not seeing real evil in the world causes these things. And then the people who are like, no, we need some of these things to protect, they just label those people as, no, you're just trying to control. You're racist, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're sexist, whatever. And in reality, you're like, no, you just don't see the big picture. You don't see the consequences that come with this. So I don't think that like that guy that was on the channel with you, the dude with the makeup and the high top or low top fade or whatever, I don't think that he consciously is thinking about the consequences and is like, I want these bad consequences to happen. I don't think that's the case. I just think he's not thinking past right now. I think he's viewing the world as a Disney Pixar movie that everyone is generally friendly and happy, and there's no one that would actually cause trouble. And maybe there is one person, but it's just because they were hurt a long time ago, and they don't see the world the way it really is.
You're right. And a lot of people just don't understand different experiences that you may not have had just in your life, you know, because even on that border issue, somebody in New Jersey is not going to see it the way somebody in Texas will. You know, if you ain't never been near the border and seen the issue, especially considering most of the Border Patrol agents are Latino. So the idea that this is racist when the people who do this for a living are the same color as the people coming over is just absurd, you know. But when you're not in an area where you're affected by this, then you can't imagine what it's really like, you know. But we can see that where we live, being a few hours away from the border, and the fentanyl issue here is out of control. You know, and I was even talking to a local police officer, and he's retired. He was like, in his career, it was nothing to see bodies popping up that they know were related to the cartel, and they can't do anything because they go back home.
Yeah.
Why would we want that? Where someone can come to America and kill you and go back home.
Mm-hmm. And trafficking, sex trafficking is
out of control in the border states. So
yeah,
you know, there are issues that you just may not understand because I would have had no idea how serious it was living in Philadelphia because we don't have a border.
Mm-hmm.
Those are issues I'm going to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that's where I think the problem is. I almost think it's kind of worse in some way because someone really doesn't know that you're just trying to help. It's almost like how old are your kids? The youngest one. How old is
youngest is 5 months.
Okay, well,
5
the next
13.
The next youngest.
1.
Okay. You take the 1-year-old to the doctor and they see the shot, but they need, let's say they need the shot to live. They're gonna be like, I don't want that. I don't want that. They don't understand.
Nope.
Yeah.
But it's the same way with this. They're like, this is unnecessary. There's no need for any of this. And it's almost worse because they're fighting off people that they really wouldn't want those results anyway. If we just let things go, if we just said, you know what, we're just gonna go the most left that we can go, the most left ideas that are pitched, we will just have anarchy and we'll just have no police because we don't need police because there's no bad people out there. Everybody's nice. the
Oh,
second
man.
that happens, they don't realize that there are evil people that will take advantage of you, especially the weak people who are pushing this very strongly. And you know, somebody
Exactly. It's the same people that need the police are pushing
Right.
that they don't need
Not
the
to
police.
mention these same people are pushing for gun control.
There you,
Yeah.
there you have
Now,
it.
I will say this. Me
Same
personally,
people.
I don't really know much about the gun issue thing. I have mixed thoughts on it, you know, because I don't think a person that's mentally sane that's mentally insane or like on a terrorist list should be walking around with one. But I also understand the side of, well, you can't just make a rule to say we get to decide who gets one and who doesn't. Because then they can just say, oh, you disagree with me politically? You're insane. We're going to take your guns away. You know,
That's the danger with the insane thing. Yeah.
So I understand that completely. But
Maybe in a,
The problem is there's a lot of people in the world who would love to call us based on just conservative beliefs insane.
yeah.
That has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only danger with that.
I thought Jesus was crazy.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
So do you think when it comes to like politically, like Black Americans, do you see a movement at all, like noticing any of this stuff? They're like, hey, the only strategy this group has is just saying, hey, the other group's racist every time. Do you see anyone? Do you see a lot of people noticing that, saying, okay, next time this is going to change, next election or the one after is going to change, or do you see it as like, no, they really care, they're doing what they can, and we're going to support them?
I think there is an increasing number of Blacks who are seeing through the agendas. I think 2020 gave a lot of people time to do more research than they have in their entire lives and to share information. You know, it's really getting out of mainstream media and getting into the independent sources and learning from other people that really is, to me, and what I'm seeing opening a lot of people's eyes. It takes time, you know, but somebody watching you who may just be connected for some of the other things you talk about, they'll see this talking and be like, you know what I mean? But then they'll see something else that aligns and they like, he was just talking about that. So I think it's happening. I definitely don't see it the way that it was in 2015.
And I think it has to get bad in order for people to wake up and realize that they're in the dark. And I think the biggest thing that is waking up the Black community is this gay agenda.
Yes.
That is really like, they hate Trump, they hate conservatives, but that LGBT stuff, no, you're not gonna push that on my kids. My kid ain't gonna be a F word. You know what I'm saying? So we see it now.
Yeah, because my father, he lifelong Democrat, you know, and he was the biggest anti-Trump, still don't like Trump. You know what I mean? So the whole idea of having a vote Republican is repulsive to him to this day. But with this agenda, when how far the left has gone, he's like, I just cannot vote in support of that anymore and call myself a Christian. And I can respect that. You know, that's the thing. They're hurting themselves with their extremism.
Yeah. They're exposing themselves.
But I think a lot of
I said they're exposing themselves.
Exactly. But I think a lot of I think that's really good on your dad's part because I don't feel like a lot of people are doing that. But I feel like what they are doing is, like we talked about earlier, kind of like like say for example, abortion. Well, that's their choice. You know what I mean? It's not my sin if they do it. That's their sin. You know, like if they want to be gay, that's their sin. But I'll still vote this way because I'll still get the support. They support Black people, so I'm going to vote this way. But I'm not the one doing this.
Abortion is like, for whatever reason, the one sin that Black America does not care about. But we care about the LGBT thing. That's a big one for Black folk. But when it comes to killing our babies, we cool with that. I don't get it. But the only thing I would say, just to try to be fair, is that this is one issue that's been around for most of our lifetime. So when you're born into a world, for instance, our kids, and I want to believe a better future for them, but let's say today's teenager, they're born into the world where, as far as they remember growing up, gay marriage has always been a thing. So for us as adults to be going against it, we're bigots to them because they've never known a different world. Yeah. And I think that's the same issue with the abortion thing, is most people alive today have never known a different world. So it feels like you're having a right taken away when the reality is the right should have never existed. Yeah. So we're fighting from a perspective of it needs to end instead of from a perspective of it should have never been here.
Right. And for the people who do and have a moral compass and believe that it's wrong, they're like, well, they're not my kids. You should still have the choice to do so. You know, I'm not going to do that, so I can't judge their sin. And not really, it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't see the child. They believe the lie that the child doesn't feel pain and all these other things. So,
and abortion was kind of the issue that got us here. That was actually our first heartfelt issue that made us kind of like, you know, open our eyes. And what we found in that journey is that when you get down to the bottom of it, there's also a lot of us that say we don't care because it ain't mine, you should have a choice. But it's really that they're struggling with the fact that they did it already. And they don't want to address the fact that if I go out here and say it's wrong now, I got to live with what I did.
And they feel they're being a hypocrite.
The hardest thing for people to do is humble themselves and say, I fell short, but I can still be redeemed, make the change. Right. They feel like they got to keep going that route now to coddle the difficulty they're having in dealing with it.
Right.
So it's kind of like they're being shut up by their own sin.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the best abortion advocates are the people who did it before.
Right.
Because you can relate to the people better.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've done it before, and I've been able to really help a few ladies that have been struggling with shame and struggling with forgiving themselves. A lot of women just, you know, they struggle with that, and they keep it deep down and hidden, and it affects their everyday life, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah. And she volunteered at a pregnancy center, and they had a whole counseling that they provided to post-abortive women. And I that's when I learned, like, that's the big issue, is that a lot of people don't deal with the reality of the weight that they carry their life. If they don't get therapy, it's not a small deal to brutally murder your offspring. That's barbaric.
Yeah.
And we try to act like it's just a medical procedure, but you're carrying that weight, ladies, a lot of times, and men too. We often don't get the help for it, but men struggle with that too, especially if it happened against your will. And I'm somebody that I paid for one when I was younger, and I didn't even realize I struggled about it until my wife started doing the counseling thing and really peeling the onion. And I'm like, man, I thought I was cool because it was somebody else's baby. It was me looking out for a homeboy who was like, I'm trying to save my marriage. But I felt the guilt in my heart because I never believed in it, even as a child. And here I am, reluctantly paying for the murder of somebody's child because I didn't want to have to be man enough to say, no, I don't believe in that.
Wow.
I took the coward route because I didn't want to let down my friend.
Yeah.
So that bugged me for most of my life.
Yeah, because you were like a hitman.
Come on. That's a good way to look at it, bro. I like that.
That's real.
We got to call stuff what it is.
Yeah.
That's the only way we get out of it.
Yeah. Instead of putting labels so you can ignore what really happened.
Termination and all these other terms to make it sound cozy.
And I like that you brought up that you didn't realize that it was affecting you. And that is the biggest thing that I see amongst women that have abortions. They're like, I'm just fine. They don't realize how it affects them. If you see the statistics, the more women that I've met that've done it, they ended up drinking more. They ended up doing more drugs, being more promiscuous, having a sense of shame deep down, so they don't value themselves how they used to, and things that were wrong to them before isn't so wrong anymore, and they don't realize that opening that door does that to you. But when you backtrack and look at the direction of your life after doing that, you will see that you changed.
Absolutely. Wow.
And I think your channel is family values. So this is a topic we were talking about last week. So I've got to bring it up to you guys. It's not the topic we're just talking about. It's a little bit of more of a lighthearted topic, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on spankings?
I'm all for it.
Yep. Spare the rod, spoil the child.
I think a lot of today's youth ain't get enough spankings.
Mm-hmm. Bunch of participation trophy kids.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
sure.
We had a guy on last week called the Prison Doctor, and he goes all over the country, basically, kind of help reshape kids that are out of control in their house, and and he's been doing a great job. And there was a lady that came on during our live, and she said, basically spanking's unnecessary past the age of 6. It's just psychologically damaging, and I've got a degree in this and that and blah, blah, blah. And she explained later that she was a single mom, that she's like, well, I don't need to spank my kids. My husband spanked them, and I didn't like it, or something like that. And, there's a lot of pushback. And surprisingly, I've been getting a lot of pushback from Christians lately. And I'm like, it says it in the Bible, though. And these are Bible-believing Christians. Like, these aren't heretics. Like, they accept Jesus. They believe that Jesus is king. But for some reason, when it comes to spanking children, they are just against it. And it tends to be more women than men. I'll admit that. But they're just against it. And they say, well, the verse doesn't really mean that. And I'm wondering, like,
if it's a single mom,
this is why fathers are needed in the home, because I don't always like it either, and sometimes I just have to walk away when he's chastising them, or putting them on punishment, or maybe a pop here and there. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want that to happen, but I see the results. I see that it's needed. And, women are just, more passive when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so women end up wanting to be their kids' friends sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't want to disappoint the baby, or the sad face they give you will remove you from doing what needs to be done. But I think it's dangerous to have a child.
Somebody commented and said, isn't the rod a metaphor for correcting sheep when they are straying? Not a literal rod. And I'm pro spanking single mom, by the way. And we know her. She's evil, so we're not going to put her on blast or anything. The pushback that I have, and I'll let you guys explain as well, because I've been doing it. I've been going back and forth with some people on this all day. Anybody who read that in that time, when they hear spare the rod, or the rod drives out, foolishness from a child, they're not thinking, okay, in ancient Israel, right? A group of people that came out from slavery in a very barbaric part of the world in history, right? They're not thinking, that really means I'm going to take away his Xbox for a week.
Right.
They're not thinking, oh, he's not going to be able to play with rocks for a couple days. This is the same culture that if someone was caught stealing, you could get your hand cut off. We view those punishments for the normal populace as too barbaric for our society, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think that if a lot of their stuff is more barbaric than ours, why would the child rearing be less than ours?
Right. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's
The
just a
only people that I
society.
hear argue that are like the main side that I hear argue that like come up with that kind of stuff are the same people that say, well, when God said it's not good for man to sleep with another man as he does a woman, man is also could be construed as boy, so he's talking about like pedophiles, not this. It's like you got to take the Bible for what it says. What else are they talking about? And here's the thing: what a shepherd did with the rod when a sheep walked away was he would break their legs with it, and then he put it on their shoulders so they can't walk away. Someone else just said shepherds break the legs of sheep that wander too far. Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
those are also the same people that would use those kind of arguments against submission as well.
Yep.
And that's just how it goes. But when it comes to the spanking thing, there's two things. There are those that I believe are just afraid because we do know that in a lot of states they're cracking down on that type of thing, and a lot of people are afraid to deal with the system, so they act like this is my belief, so they don't really have to take a stand that may charge them to have to stand on their stand. And then there's also the others who, like I said, usually single moms or moms that are having this problem, or men that just don't run their home properly. But what I always say is, let me see their kids. It never fails. I'm never impressed. I'm never impressed by the kids of the people with that statement.
Yeah. Yeah. They call it, what is it, soft?
And they'll be the same ones when our 8 kids come around. They're like, how are they the quietest in the room? How are your kids so well behaved? I only got 2 and they make more noise. Y'all got to teach me something. No, you don't want what we teach you.
right.
You reject that.
Yeah. There's got to be another way.
There's something here. This doesn't make. People will call my house. How is it so quiet? We're doing a whole live right now with 8 kids.
Man.
You couldn't do that in some people's house with 2 kids.
Man.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
8 kids. Wow. Let me ask you something, Dad. Do you give your daughters the same smoke that you would give your sons?
No.
How does that work? I don't have any kids, so I want to know. I want.
Yeah, I don't. I take that L, and I'm just gonna ride with it.
And honestly, at the end of the day, every child is different.
Right.
Every child is different, and certain punishments aren't needed for certain child. Some of them we can just talk to them or say we're disappointed, and they really get it. And then there's some where they just not gonna get it because they're hard headed, and you gotta spank them to get it. So
if my 6-year-old girl hears me ask her a question about if she did something wrong, she's in tears already. Just the thought that daddy might be disappointed in me, she's done.
Yeah. So there is not a need for them. And if anything, if there is a need, I take care of the girls.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool, man.
Well,
definitely. I was interested in that.
I noticed you guys are, your page is about family. You guys having family. So I know you guys probably got dinner or something, getting ready to go. We don't want to hold you up too long. You've already been on for an hour and a half. We appreciate you for taking the time to hop on, and we would love to do it again and stay connected. We love the stuff that both you guys are putting on your pages, and it's definitely needed today.
Okay.
Absolutely, man.
All right.
Thank y'all, man. And keep doing what you're doing as well. I'm watching y'all, and I'm happy that there's other people out here in the fight.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
One thing I want to say before you go, I definitely love what you guys represent. You know what I'm saying? A young couple, 8 kids, like that's like almost unheard of today. You guys are together. You look like you're good together. You know what I mean? I'm not in y'all's household, but I mean, just from the surface, you guys look like you're doing your thing, man. Keep it up, man.
Oh, man, appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
Thank you. And I like what you guys are doing over here, the things that y'all are talking about. Keep it up.
Yeah, y'all not afraid of the pushback, and I always appreciate that.
Hey, if you still have those Vice connections, man, get me on the show.
If it's ever possible, I'm gonna think about you for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for hopping on. We'll catch you guys later.
All right. Thank you for having us.